Hello, everyone, and welcome back to what is essentially a god-awful, just dribbling on the internet. You don't know what you're talking about. Just the worst medical or biological tweets that just exist out there. Because the world is full of a bunch of people who appear to be stupid, for lack of a better term. And it's like when a toddler learns a new word, they automatically assume, oh, hey, I know this word too, so let me just apply it in a sentence that makes no sense. So, starting with our first tweet, hanging out in Silicon Valley elites, and they're handing me iodine pills. Yeah, I take these. It decalcifies the pineal gland, proven to increase IQ if you're iodine deficient, which we generally are. Okay, so big thing if you didn't know, especially consider current events in the world, potassium iodide actually protects your thyroid gland short-term in nuclear disaster scenarios. So if you're exposed to nuclear fallout at all, what it does is it's absorbed by the thyroid and then stops it from absorbing radioactive iodine. So actually, it's not a bad thing just to keep on hand anyways, because you never know what's going to happen. But decalcifying the pineal gland, something like 50 to 70% of adults actually have calcification of the pineal gland because in your brain is protected by the brain itself. Most of the neural tissue is protected by the blood-brain barrier. But the pineal gland is actually just sort of like hanging out in your cerebral spinal fluid. So what happens is over time, it can actually start to calcify, which is pretty common as we age. Maybe not great, but it is common. As far as we know, no, potassium iodide does not decalcify your pineal gland. And also your pineal gland is very, very small, right? Which that's kind of a funny thing to say, but it is basically, it sits next to your optic nerve, and what happens is when you wake up in the morning and you take in light, the optic nerve obviously is transmitting information to the occipital lobe back here for eyesight, right? Well, the pineal gland's right next to it. It can pick that up and actually determine blue light, which it'll then stop releasing basically go to sleep hormones, right? So increasing your IQ that doesn't make any sense. Like, okay, your cerebrum, for the most part, as far as we know the brain, because we still haven't exactly mapped out everything, your cerebrum is what we're responsible simply for your intellect, prefrontal cortex specifically. So, no, the pineal gland decalcifying, the only thing I could see is maybe if you're tired all the time, that could affect your ability to think. But Alex Jansen here does not know what she's talking about. The measles virus is proven in court by microbiologist Stefan Lanka to not exist. The detox event called measles has nothing to do with the virus. Do keep up. Daniel, you're not too smart, actually. If you went on Google, you can look this up. It is very simple. In fact, I did look it up because I was like, what? It was a German biologist who tried to prove that, oh, hey, measles is actually caused by traumatic events from separation, which is what causes measles. No, it's caused by a freaking virus. So he bet 100,000 euros that nobody could prove him wrong, right? We had microbiologist, German doctor David Barden, who gathered evidence from various medical studies. Mr. Lanka dismissed the findings. Of course he did, because he didn't want to pay 100,000 euros. But the court in the town of Ravensburg ruled the proof was insufficient for Mr. Lanka. The reacting verdict by the court in a Southern Time, Mr. Lanka said he would appeal this, still saying that it is a psychosomatic illness. So Daniel, no, actually, Stefan Lanka was proven incorrect. So I would maybe say keep up with that, because you really want to actually, like, if something's said, you want to look it up, right? Because when you look things up, you might solve a lot of your problems. Okay, this one's kind of sad. My boss's wife has cancer. Been told today that she has to have chemo or she will deteriorate rapidly. Been fighting for 5 years. Feel sorry for them. She's totally against chemo, currently on Rick Simpson, the Wright's diet, etc., but not working. Surely something natural can help. Now, the thing about cancer is it is a punk ass, right? All cancer, doesn't matter what it is, you're essentially a multicellular organism, and cancer is like, I'm going to go do my own thing. It's like, cool, you know, if you want to go do your own thing, that's fine, but leave the body. But no, it stays in there because it wants to survive. So there is supposed to be something with frequencies that shatters cancer cells, but leaves the healthy cells unharmed. I think what he's trying to say, or Mag is trying to say here, is something called a resonant frequency. Essentially every material in the universe supposedly has a frequency which it resonates with, right? So this person is assuming, I'm guessing, that they're saying cancer cells do have a resonant frequency, but it's not going to shatter the cell. And also, it's still a human cell, right? It may have different functions. It may be dividing faster, but it's still a human cell. So I don't think there is a frequency that's going to shatter a cancer cell and leave your healthy cells unharmed. Some people say, doggo, keto diet, minimize all carbs, try to starve cancer, fasting for 2 days. The body will start to disassemble improper cells in the body. 3 days, the immune system will reset and regenerate new immune cells too. Totally natural, powerful, been programmed for millions of years. So the problem with this is actually a lot of like what people don't seem to understand is, which is why medical marijuana is a breakthrough. People who have cancer, the chemo makes them really, really sick and nauseous, so they don't eat. So starving yourself, which fasting is basically controlled not eating for an extended period of time, which will trigger your body to undergo a form of ketosis where you're releasing ketones in the place of glucose, right? So you don't want to starve yourself when you have cancer because your body's already fighting something. In fact, you need to eat. That's why people who get medical marijuana and start eating food, even though they're undergoing chemotherapy, they start doing better because their body has nutrition. The thing about cancer is it sucks up nutrition. It's always going to suck up nutrition because that's just what it is. It's a cancer. It's a parasite in your body. It will literally let all the cells around it die as long as it gets nutrition. So no, that's not a good idea. You don't want to stop eating. And as far as resetting the immune system, it doesn't matter anyways, because while we do have things in place that protect us, I think 1 to 2 cancer cells or 1 to 2 cells per day in your body that could become cancer or destroyed by the immune system, it's still not, if it's already progressed to the point where the body has lost control of that means it can't trigger those cells to basically undergo apoptosis, or it's not able to destroy it in some manner. So once the cancer has started, it's difficult for the body to attack it correctly. Immunotherapy right now is attempting to kind of bridge that gap where we can program immune cells to actually still attack the cancer cells, despite the cancer cells maybe not presenting in a way that they should be attacked normally. So basically using your own immune system to attack cancer. That's probably gonna be the way forward. But starving yourself, entering ketosis, while that does have an effect on actually sweeping away older, like defunct cells, it's not going to fix cancer, unfortunately. Has she tested to see if she's alkaline or acidic? I always hated this. Okay, now there is a range in which your body can exist, but when you start getting outside of that range, this is what I don't get. Enzymes will actually literally stop working. And if enzymes stop working, your cells stop working. Your cells stop working, you die. So alkaline or acidic, it really does not matter. I mean, you wouldn't get to the point where it would matter because you would just flatline, basically. What do you think COVID-19 is? And I don't know if I can say that on this channel, but it doesn't really matter. There are no wrong answers. This is an adult conversation by child of creator. The original flu virus, a new form of virus, toxic poisoning, terrain theory, 5G effects. Or let me know what you think. Carrie Simon, 5G viruses don't exist. Okay, so this is what happened. I think when we all went into quarantine, people didn't realize that the internet is just a giant, ridiculous cluster of people memeing on each other, right? 5G starting COVID was actually a joke. Like, go look it up. It was a friggin' joke that even was because it was people making fun of people like Carrie right here. So viruses absolutely do exist. I'm not understanding why that's an argument. In fact, I've gotten into an argument with somebody on my Facebook page before. Basically, we were talking, he's a chiropractor. And listen, I go to the chiropractor all the time. Maybe it's psychosomatic. It makes my bones feel better. I don't know. I like it. But he was trying to explain to me, especially with my background, that the flu didn't exist. The flu is just in our body all the time, but only when we're out of sync with, God knows what he was talking about. That's when we experience symptoms. No. These things exist. There are microbes that we can't see that exist, that inhabit our bodies, that make us feel ill. And that's why we have an immune system. If none of these things existed, why would we have an immune system? It doesn't make any sense to me. Because these are the same type of people who will be like, oh, well, viruses and bacteria don't exist. But here, if you detox your immune system, it can destroy cancer. It's like, why would we have it then? All right, 5G. Let me just go ahead and hit you with this. I've seen people scared of this. They're like, oh my God, it's horrible. If you walk out in visible sunlight, there is more energy hitting your cells than 5G energy. So the frequency of visible light is quite literally 428,570 gigahertz. So 5 gigahertz versus almost 430,000 gigahertz. You're getting more energy from sunlight just by existing in it, which we'll go into a tweet later about actually why ultraviolet's bad for you. But that's just the reality of the situation. If these people are talking about literally energy being imparted into your body, visible light is just orders of magnitude higher. And anyways, moving on. I have herbs to treat COVID, cold, flu symptoms, UTI, BV, chlamydia, gonorrhea, yeast infections, erectile dysfunction, obesity, depression, anxiety, stress, insomnia, acne, pimples, blemishes, discoloration, hair loss, memory loss, and a BBL herb, OTW. Share this to help someone. Don't do that. Don't share this, because that's what we like to call back in the day snake oil. It doesn't work. Carbs also suppress and prevent the brain from accessing ketones, which are a more stable fuel source. So here's what happens, right? There is an idea floating around that humans were never supposed to be eating the amount of carbs, which is agreeable to an extent. We are hunter-gatherers. So that means we eat meat and we gather what we can. But fruits and vegetables, which you can gather those, definitely have carbs in them. Meat does not have as many carbs in them, but there still can be some carbs in meat. Just really depends. So accessing ketones, what your body does is that when there's not enough carbs, your body will actually make ketones to fuel your body. It can turn on fat. It becomes it's a pretty good fuel source for a little while. The problem is that your brain needs glucose, right? So your brain can use ketones for a while, but some portions of your brain do absolutely need glucose. The liver basically helps the brain have some glucose so that it can still stay running. But even then, so take ketosis, right? You're not supposed to stay in ketosis for more than 6 months. You can actually suffer some brain damage if you stay on it too long. So while it is a stable fuel source, it's not 100% ideal, but neither is eating 800 grams of carbs a day. Probably shouldn't be doing that either. That's just not good for our bodies. In fact, conspiracy theory, actually it's not a conspiracy theory, the American diet, the little triangle thing and all that, the reason carbs, like breads, grains, whatever, were put on the bottom and you should eat a lot of these, is because the United States is essentially a bread basket. So that was actually changed to make you eat more bread, but you're not supposed to have that much bread. In fact, meats, dairies, cheeses, all that, more in line with what you're supposed to be eating more of. Now, fruits and vegetables, probably about where it is. Fats and sweets. You don't want to eat too much sweets because that's sugar, but fats would be right down there with meats because you can absolutely eat fats and still be good. The whole thing about we're finding heart disease, if you eat fat, you're going to get heart disease. Turns out that's not really that true. It actually can program your body to burn fat more often, because if you're creating ketones, you can create those from fats. So don't stay in ketosis for 6 months. Ketones are not the ideal fuel source for your brain. Autoimmune diseases are really just slow suicides via plant toxin overdose. Okay, this guy's name is Carnivore Sapien. This didn't make any sense to me. I'm pretty sure this is a joke, I hope. But no, again, so if you take things like grains, we make bread out of grains, right? Which is a plant. So it's you can almost see what he's talking about as far as inflammatory diseases. There's some things that if you eat too much carbs, it can be related to inflammation, blah, 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 blah. But no, it's not 100% across the board. Sometimes, so when your immune system is forming, in fact, 98 or 97%, 98% of your cells actually are destroyed because they'll inadvertently match a certain receptor on your normal cells. And if they match, they have to be destroyed, because if they get out and start circulating in your body, they will attack that tissue. An autoimmune disease is when one of those cells makes it by and then can go on to attack your joints, your skin, your nervous system, all this stuff. So it's not a 100% foolproof thing. Some people, the selection process doesn't appear to be as rigorous, which could result in autoimmune disorders. For others, they're still good to go and it just hasn't propagated in their bodies. But no, autoimmune diseases are not just you reacting to freaking plant toxin overdose. Doesn't even make any sense. Okay, now we're getting into really stupid stuff. When a pregnant woman cheats and has sex with her man, that her biology registers as a better mate, because your biology is going to register that, her baby will miscarriage. This is the reality of nature that nobody tells you. Well, nobody tells you it because it's not the reality of nature. King Clyde, shouts of truth. That is the most dumb thing I've ever read in my life. Okay, so somebody failed sex ed, it appears. This guy's a full-grown man. Like, how does he believe this? This is like, did you skip your high school course that day? I don't know. No, your biology is not going to register a better mate. That makes no sense. So you take things like a display of genes, right? How does a person look? That'll give you, whether we like it or not, and how our brains function, that gives you an unconscious idea of what kind of mate they are, right? So we all have different preferences on what we like. That's what we are looking for. And if somebody doesn't have that, it's not going to rustle our jimmies enough to want to be interested. And that's the only way, because we're visual creatures as well. That's really the only way I would possibly see, registering a mate with your biology. Once the deed is done, and once a baby is growing, it's not going to register a better mate based on sperm. That is so stupid. In fact, I believe if you try to tell this man that the woman's body actively tries to destroy sperm and it has to do certain things. So inside of the uterus, there are absolutely measures in place that will protect from invasion of organisms, because guess what? Bacteria still exists in the world. So when sperm enters any of the uterine area, the body will actually also attempt to destroy it because it's a foreign invader. There are kind of events that the female body undergoes to help some of the sperm make it through, but even then, you might get some sperm that lasts up to about 3 days inside of a woman. But in no way, shape, or form is that going to cause a baby to miscarriage. It does not mean, this is better biology. It doesn't mean if you've had a miscarriage, it's better biology. That makes no friggin' sense. That's not how the body works. If you take chlorophyll and limit fried foods, meat, dairy, you don't need deodorant. Also, people out here still using aluminum. So this guy just doesn't have any friends because nobody wants to be around them. Straight up, if you're not wearing deodorant, nobody wants to be around you. Go take a shower. For the love of God. Oh, this is a good one because I actually have this. Tinnitus. Try soaking a large amount of chopped mint leaves in water, then drinking a few glasses each day. Fresh leaves are the best, but can be frozen. Mint extract can substitute if necessary. So, mint, if I recall, does have some anti-inflammatory properties, but it's not going to do that. So my tinnitus, there's a couple ways you can get tinnitus. It's blast. The first way you can get tinnitus is if you're working in a loud environment, right? The constant percussion on your eardrum will essentially destroy the hair follicles inside that are used to interpret sound. That sucks. If you have that, it's basically like you hear ringing or whooshing or just terrible sounds all the time. And now the good thing about the human brain, for anybody watching that may have that, is your brain does have the ability to eventually just ignore it, right? So for instance, I have tinnitus. When I first noticed it, dude, I was freaking out, all right? And it basically got to the point where I couldn't sleep. Well, I figured out how to actually stop my tinnitus about a year later, and it was really difficult to get back to sleep because it was too quiet. So your brain can kind of change how you interpret it. So my issue with tinnitus is you have auditory nerves that run back here. And I mean, I went to an ENT specialist for this, and she basically said, well, there's nothing we can do for you. So that was a blast. But basically, the nerves that run right here, because I'm working on a computer more, I'm leaning forward more. I had this weird compression going on. It was putting pressure on the auditory nerve. Boom, tinnitus. Just a loud E noise constantly. I got rid of it because I decided to try to fix my posture, use an inversion table, stretch out my spine, boom, done. So if it just randomly shows up and you've been working at a computer a lot, that could be the reason. But mint extract is not going to do anything except maybe a psychosomatic response, which is you basically make up the response. I might be wrong, but self-employed people don't suffer from long COVID. Again, what does this have to do with it? I just don't get it. It's like people think that their environment is what makes them separate in terms of being a human, right? So, you know, I'm self-employed, and I've always wondered if I had a form of long COVID. For instance, I was talking to my father-in-law the other day, and when we were talking about, because we both had COVID, he said, yeah, you know, I used to be able to taste all of like the notes in wine, right? Now I can't taste them anymore. And I used to think wine tasted like a foot, right? It was pretty nasty. Like you microwave a wet sock, that was the taste of wine to me. But after COVID, I think wine tastes good now. So maybe I have it. I don't know. But I work from home. There's plenty of people out there who work from home that have long COVID and are dealing with it. The scariest part is we don't know what causes it. It would, to me, basically, this is just my layman's perspective on this. I'm not saying this is what it is. It appears to be something almost autoimmune at this point that's kind of screwing with everything. So it'll be interesting to see in the future, but anybody who has long COVID, I really feel for you. It doesn't matter if you're self-employed or not. You can absolutely suffer from that. A woman who has been with many people and then has a child will have a chimera. The child will have DNA from sperm of different men. Okay. That's, again, not how it works. So there's the misconception that one sperm reaches the egg, that's the winner. Actually, the first sperm that reaches the egg doesn't even get to fertilize it. There is a protective layer around the egg that the other sperm have to dissolve so that then one gets lucky and makes it in. If you had a bunch of DNA mixed with other people, I don't even know what would be born, because that would be way more chromosomes than you would even need to make a child in the first place. So where do they come up with this? I just don't get it. UV rays don't cause cancer, but holy fuck, this is funny. Repeated burning and damage to skin has been correlated with skin cancer. Okay. UV radiation is quite literally damaging your DNA. They're called thymine dimers, right? You can also cause point mutations, but thymine dimers are essentially when thymidine, you have like thymidine here, and then they connect. This causes a frame shift mutation actually in the DNA, because when it goes to, replicate itself or go through mitosis, it doesn't know what was there originally anyways. So it just kind of makes it up. That's what causes issues like skin cancer. So I'm a little worried about that, because when I was a kid, I got like freaking sunburn all the time. But repeated burning and damage to skin. What do you think damage is? It's literally genetic damage. It's just like it's like people are almost there. It's like it's like they have just a little bit of a grasp on it, and then they make the leap, and it just doesn't work. Has anyone noticed that their urine tastes different after taking the Pfizer vaccine? So foolish to take the jab. You got your own urine. Best natural vaccine in the planet with zero side effects. Millions died already. Again, this is just about drinking pee. Why are you drinking your own piss? What are you, Bear Grylls? Like, for real with this? This doesn't make any sense. It is waste. That is waste from your body. You don't want to be drinking that. And it's... okay. No, your urine is not the best natural vaccine in the planet. This is like eating boogers and then being like, oh, my immune system's fine. That's so nasty. All right, the main reason why I'm no longer married to my ex-wife is she got an IED placed. I've covenanted to replenish the earth, and I'm going to do exactly that. B for Johnson. Well, I don't think you would have to worry about her long, because if she's got an IED placed in her, that does not seem like it's going to go well long term. But anyhow, thank you for joining me for dumb medical tweets once again. I hope you guys are enjoying these. Got maybe a better setup with the camera, hopefully. It's hopefully 1080p. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Supposedly this thing's supposed to be 4K. I don't know. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed, leaving a like would be great. Any criticisms you have over kind of like the styling of this and what you thought about it, please drop it in the comments. I'm always open to kind of all that stuff. But, you know, I will say this. These really annoy me. These dumb tweets I find them to be so stupid and annoying because it's just so easy to find out you're wrong. Like, just look it up before you start spewing a bunch of crap. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all in the next one.